Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi! Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
You are now diving into the Stone Zone. This past Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, I called for Congressman Jack Kemp to be inducted into the very prestigious Football Hall of Fame. Not only did Jack Kemp as a politician have a profound effect on the trajectory of America, because it was his advocacy of growth side economics that were adopted by presidential candidate Ronald Reagan and ended up giving America unprecedented prosperity. But his football career was quite extraordinary. He was first drafted by the Detroit Lions in 1957. Early on, he kind of struggled to find stability, bouncing around, playing for the San Diego Chargers before ending up with the Buffalo Bills. Then leading the Bills to 2 consecutive AFL championships, he himself being recognized as the most valuable player. Kemp's heroics on display during that 1964 AFL championship when they faced against his former team, the Chargers. The Chargers, as I recall, were expected to rout the Bills with their head coach, Sid Gilman's revolutionary passing attack and their edge over experience. But the Bills proved surprisingly formidable. Kemp etched his way into the annals of football history by leading the Bills to a 27 win. The next year saw the AFL title rematch between the Chargers and the Bills. And once again, the margin of victory was even more lopsided. The Bills defeated the Chargers by a 23-0 margin, running the favored team out of the building. Kemp that year won the most valuable player for the championship game after receiving the most valuable player honors during the regular season. He shared that honor with all-time greats of the NFL like Terry Bradshaw, Joe Montana, Emmitt Smith, and Patrick Mahomes. So I think it is long past the time that Jack Kemp should be in the Football Hall of Fame. I first met Jack Kemp in 1972. I was working for the committee to re-elect the president. I was a surrogate scheduler, and I had been assigned Kemp as one of the active Nixon re-election surrogates. Kemp had worked as an intern in the office of Governor Ronald Reagan and was a favorite of Reagan. There would be a later controversy regarding that. But then he fell under the wing of Herb Klein, who was President Richard Nixon's campaign and administration communications advisor, and Kemp would ultimately seek a congressional seat in 1970 in a district, a blue-collar district, right outside of Buffalo. Kemp was an outspoken advocate for civil rights. He was one of the major sponsors of making Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday a holiday. He was for a broader, more inclusive Republican Party that reached out specifically to African Americans. But more importantly, he revolutionized our thinking about taxes. It was Jack Kemp with a small band of others like consultant Jude Oweniski and a young Larry Kudlow, Jeffrey Bell, and others who realized that based on history, deep federal income tax cuts resulted in spurts of revenue. In other words, a rising tide lifts boats. If taxes are lower, more people are working, therefore more people are paying taxes, and government revenues go up. I know it is the orthodoxy of the left who say that no, that's not how it works. These tax cuts are responsible for the deficits. They're not. Let's listen to this Jack Kemp presidential commercial, because Jack ran in 1988, and when we come back, we'll talk about why this great conservative did not catch fire as our nominee.
In 1980, Jack Kemp proposed a 30% tax cut. Bob Dole opposed it, and George Bush called it voodoo economics. But Kemp kept fighting. And in 1981, President Reagan signed the Kemp-Roth tax cut into law. The very next year, Bush and Dole supported the largest tax increase in U.S. history, and now they've raised taxes again. As president, you can count on Jack Kemp to say no to higher taxes. Jack Kemp. If he wins, we all win.
So Kemp was endorsed Reagan early. I think helped sell him on the positive, upbeat message of economic growth and moving the Republican Party away from being the party of austerity and cutting. And I think he revitalized the party. It's very interesting that Donald Trump has adapted the same growth economics. You can see that in the big, beautiful bill, and you can see it in his anti-regulatory policies. Many people thought that Jack Kemp, upstate congressman who had worked so hard to elect Reagan, would have been the ideal vice presidential candidate for Reagan. And in fact, interestingly enough, after Reagan had been nominated, at the convention, I was working as a regional political director for the Northeast, handling New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And all of the directors and sub-directors, about 27 people, top political staff, were called to a session in which Governor Reagan came in and thanked us for our hard work since he had been nominated the night before. And when he came in, Andy Carter, who had been with Reagan all the way back to Reagan's nascent 1968 kind of furtive effort, in which many people don't realize that he showed up at the 1968 convention in Miami Beach as a favorite son candidate, but then on the urging of some, he became a full-fledged candidate, could not break into Nixon's firewall in the South and stall Nixon's comeback nomination on the first ballot. But Carter had a relationship such that he said, Ron, I would never think to call the governor Ron, we like to talk about the vice presidency. And Mike Deaver, who was kind of the body man and deputy chief of staff and handler for Reagan, said, no, we're not here for Q&A. But Reagan said, wait a minute, Mike, I'd like to hear what these fellas have to say. So everybody was seated, and Governor Reagan listened, and we went around the room, and each person said who they thought should be the vice presidential nominee and why. What's interesting is that the majority of those present said that Jack Kemp should be the nominee, that he was the natural heir to the California-based, upbeat, optimistic, pro-growth agenda that Reagan had embraced. Others thought that Paul Laxalt, who was the chairman of Reagan's 1976 and his 1980 campaign, a very solid guy, had been both governor of Nevada. At the same time, Reagan was governor of California. They became quite close, and then later was elected to the U.S. Senate. I loved Laxalt. He was a truly great man, a hardcore conservative, but the geography in those days mattered more, and I thought having Nevada and California, two Westerners, made less sense. Trump from upstate New York was both a good geographic balance. But I think his chances were destroyed when the Bush people passed a rumor that was completely false. During Reagan's governorship, there had been a scandal in which several members of his staff were accused of having a homosexual relationship which in the 1960s was extraordinarily coincidental. Trump has no involvement with these events, which were chronicled by Lynn Nofziger and others, but it was always a smear. It was Jack has issues. Jack had no issues. He was happily married to Joanne Trump, but I think the Bush people peddled this. It bubbled up in some Evans and Novak columns as a way to knock them down, but that's political poison. Jack Kemp was always more interested in the ideas than he was in promoting himself. There was a selflessness for him. He traveled 256 days a year, speaking for the party, speaking for candidates, but always preaching an optimistic, positive, upbeat message of economic growth and fighting those in the party who felt that austerity was the way to go. It is really time to put him in the particularly post Super Bowl in the Football Hall of Fame. Meanwhile, Donald Trump continues to just sue these multi-billion-dollar fake news outfits with defamation lawsuits. His latest one against the vile British Broadcasting Corporation is officially headed to trial, marking a major legal showdown between the former commander-in-chief and the fake news. The BBC had moved to dismiss the case, and the courts refused to do so. I made the mistake when I was speaking to the Oxford Union to doing a show on BBC in which some hack accused me of Russian collusion, getting his information evidently from the Huffington Post. Anything who knows about me and the course that I've been on, the government never produced any evidence whatsoever of Russian collusion or WikiLeaks collaboration against me. They framed me up in some process crimes, but this was a total smackdown. You can probably still find it on YouTube. It was one of their livelier personalities. I had to put him down quite hard in his line of accusations based on nothing. The BBC is kind of like the CNN of Britain. And as I've said, I don't get my news from the toilet for the same reason I don't, get my news from CNN, or perhaps it's the other way around. In any event, it's interesting when you look at the numbers, CNN, MSNBC, even News Nation, their numbers are down as more and more people go directly to the internet for their news. And cable appears to me to going the way of broadcast. Broadcast television, ABC, NBC, CBS, used to dominate communications in the country until the advent of cable. Cable changed all of that, diminished the strength of the broadcast outlets, unless, of course, they're being seen online. More people now, thanks to Elon Musk, who's done more for the First Amendment and free speech than anyone other than the Founding Fathers, more and more people get their unfiltered information on the internet. Even on the internet, you have to be careful of fake news. Donald Trump is suing BBC because they manipulated videos of Trump's speech to try to give it a negative cast pertaining to January 6th. I have a feeling that BBC will be writing a very, very large check to Donald J. Trump shortly. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to Stone Zone, and we'll be right back.